My name is Jonathan Layton, and I'm here with Kirk Morgan. We're attempting or starting to work our way through a mentorship process and start a video in order to document not only expectations, but how we came to get to this point. A little bit about me. Again, my name is Jonathan Layton. I'm a husband, father, mentor. I've been in the military for 23 years, both serving in the Marine Corps and in the Army. I'm currently a 255 Alpha or server technician. Inside of the Army, I build and maintain systems for the Army to allow them to communicate. I'm here today with Kirk Morgan again, who's going to do an introduction for himself in order to help introduce a book club and start him on a path to building his own business.
Kirk Morgan, a husband. We wanted to lead up to how we got to a book club. So I met Jonathan at work, where he essentially became my mentor. We talked about this through his nonprofit and building up. And I told him, hey, I want to start this book club. And essentially, we got here. So the reason why we started with a book club is because my passion was to read. It's kind of something that, hey, I get to reach out and learn other people's thought while also growing, which is something I'm in tune with. The name of the book club that we chose was Hidden Knowledge. The reason why, it's supposed to be something funny because there's nothing hidden to you. And our motto is nothing new under the sun, because everything that we see today has happened over and over. But without the proper knowledge of what to look for, we are unable to get the knowledge we need done. Get it there, put it out front so that everyone could see it. What happened today is it might have happened someday under the sun. And someone out there somewhere experienced what you did and hopefully wrote about it.
And the idea behind that, of course, is to share our cumulative experiences so that we can understand ourselves better. We spend a lot of time looking at or articulating or being resold our life, in particular, how to accomplish certain things, when in reality, if we communicated with each other better, or if we tried to interpret and shared our common perspectives, then, or uncommon perspectives for that matter, then we could produce a better outcome individually and therefore together.
So, let's get into it. Hidden Knowledge, the purpose is to explore the written world of wisdom, right? And to promote free thought and to learn from each other as we go along. We operate as the incomplete person. Back then, it would have been written as the incomplete man. And because life is short and sometimes taken over seriously, we miss things because we think that we're the only person in a particular situation who an event happened to, and so we kind of miss everything. Here we are to explore the written world of wisdom, learn the knowledge that has been passed down and survived for a very long time. And as we go along, so our direction is to share information. The more information you have, is the better opportunities you have in this life. And our motivation is to impact this world one positive thought at a time. We basically believe that everyone in this world is good. It's just our psychological programming which pushed us in certain directions and make us do the things that we perceive as normal against another person. So we hope to provide the knowledge to help override some of our psychological.
So as I understand, you're saying the purpose is to basically explore wisdom through someone else's written experiences or perspective. And the direction that we're going to use to do that is to examine not only ourselves spiritually, mentally, financially, but also emotionally, and how our interactions take place with other people through understanding how we receive certain information that we read, depending on what book. And what's motivating that is to have a positive impact on ourselves so that we can better interact with the world.
Yes, and so the way we, for direction, right, the way we broke that down is in 4 segments, which was alignment with your purpose and your life choices and the disillusion of passion. 2, personal finance. 3, which is the marriage to yourself and the world, and 4, spirituality. I know that most of these could be looked at in a way where it's like, wait, the disillusion of passion, spirituality, what does all that mean to a person? So the first thing that we want to establish is that each of these might have a different meaning to you depending on who you are, where you were raised, and the type of programming you receive. And as I said, it's as structured. So the first The first quarter of the year is going to be the alignment of purpose, your life choices, and the disillusion of passion. We have rules for success. These are the governing rules which Jonathan and we sat down and came up with, and like kind of wrote about.
And as you think of rules, don't think of, don't over compare to we're trying to tell you how to talk or how to think, or the rule is you have to be this kind of way. It's more of a guideline for how we can ensure that we keep a conversation flowing inside of the parameters of what we're trying to do. For example, first rule is come prepared. Read the material, prepare your thoughts, and expect to have your thoughts challenged respectfully. Now that means we're sometimes, the word respect is thrown around, but it's such a subjective word. And we're basically saying if you can't articulate your thoughts, send us an email. Call us on the phone, and then we can hash out how you want to say what you want to say so that it constantly remains productive. Mindful listening. A lot of times we get caught up in loops where we are thinking more about what we want to say to someone in response when they haven't even finished based on the first couple of words that came out of their mouth. I think it's very important that you learn to listen in all of your relationships, especially if you have a wife and children. Listen to the complete thought of someone else. And if you have to, take notes inside of that thought so that you can ask questions to better understand what someone else is going through. And that produces an indescribable amount of empathy on your part to be able to listen and then respond.
Then the person is not defensive.
Yeah.
That right there. So also to add to mindful listening is listen, be aware of your thoughts and your own reaction to it, but don't interrupt the person mid-thought. That's like the fastest way of telling someone you don't really care about them, which is very, very difficult, and it leads the conversation ultimately down a different path where you didn't want it to go. Now the person's not listening to you. Now your opinion is essentially aggressive, or it comes off aggressive to a person. So mindful listening is just attentively listen to the person while being aware of your own reactions and your own thoughts.
Again, being respectful. And I think a very important rule, even though it's number 3, is number 4, avoid group thinking. A lot of times when you start having conversations, it becomes very homogenous in the fact that you want to be agreeable and you want to get along with people. The only way I've ever found to avoid conflict, and I'm not sure how everybody else interprets this, is to attack it while it's small. So if you have something to say, find a respectful way to say it. Hey, I don't agree, and here's why I don't agree. Again, it involves everything: being mindful, coming prepared, being respectful, and that way we can avoid having a conversation where someone feels like 5 people are ganging up on them, trying to force an understanding on them, because that's not where we want to be.
That's true, which leads us to the next rule, which is very important, which helps us avoid groupthink, is strive to participate. If someone says something, think of yourself as a contributing member to society, because everyone everyone has a place in society, but a contributing member to society has the purpose where they provide a job. Like, i.e., we're both in the army, right? But we both provide 2 different things for the army. The way he could provide and the way I provide to the army is very different. So think of yourself as a person who provides your own thoughts and your meaning and your understanding to the particular subject without having to be disrespectful. That's how we avoid groupthink, by striving to participate.
And throughout that, at the end, we have the culminating event, so we will, and that's a military word. We use it all the time for some strange reason. But practical application. As you're reading, try to sample, whether it be a financial thing, even if you're financially in a certain place, look at, try to exemplify, try to understand, try to get someone else's perspective. Try to take whatever it is material that we're reading in that time and applying it to your life in some way to see if you can get a result. I mean, that's the best way to science through a process.
To be able to gain wisdom, and the quote that I look at is, wisdom is attained through knowledge, applied knowledge. So apply what you're learning here and now, no matter how small it is. We're not saying completely turning life upside down, but apply a small segment and what is applicable to you, because not everything is gonna be applicable to you. So you apply what you can apply to your life and move from there, which leads us to our first quarter reading list. And
so why don't you start off telling like again, this is me mentoring him, and we're trying to start something completely new.
Okay.
You pick these books in a particular order for a particular reason. So as you describe what book that you picked, tell them why you decided that book, that order, and then the timeline, and then we can
Alrighty. So we're striving to read a book a month. That means sometimes we're going to be reading 3 to 4 chapters, meeting once a week to discuss questions. So the reason why I structured these books in a specific order is the first one is Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and it's to get you thinking about your purpose. It's to get you thinking, hey, what is it that I want to contribute to this world? And there's a difference between passion and purpose, which, like, researching this led me down a rabbit hole, which is why the first segment is called The Alignment of Your Purpose and Your Life Choices and the Disillusion from Passion. Passion is what you get for yourself. Your purpose is what you apply to the world. Right? Sometimes we like to think of ourselves as above the whole, but what one person does affect the entire whole. So if we think with each other versus against each other, we'd be able to achieve a lot more over a shorter period of time. And so I chose Start With Why because it gets you thinking about your purpose, your reason for being, and getting there effectively. And then I chose 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The reason why we chose 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is because we like to think habits are applicable to our lives. We like to say, hey, we can make these really ridiculous goals without taking into account the smaller choices, the sub-choices. And habits are triggered by conditioning, right? So if you really break down habits, it's something highlights a function in your mind and you automatically do it. It's automatic. And so we choose this book because it's talking about the habits of very, very highly effective people, right? Again, this is applicable to you and you apply it as you go. Some people are further than others in life and with experience and given all that. So when we're talking about habits, you know yourself better than we can know you, right? Only you really know you at the end of the day, because you can lie to me, you can lie to my mentor, or you can lie to everyone else. But when you look in the mirror, you can lie all you want, but it'll be there in your face. So we choose 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then the third book that we choose is So Good They Can't Ignore You. And the reason why we went with So Good They Can't Ignore You is because by Cal Newport. I'll go over the books and their author, again. So Good They Can't Ignore You is that you find the skill that you're good at and you honed your craft. And what Cal Newport has realized is it takes 3 criteria to meet passion. His first is flexibility of time. Second is the ease over work. And the third is to be able to control the things around you. So in effect, as come from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is your sphere of influence. Your sphere of influence does have a lot to do with your passion. So as we go, each book will build on each other, which is why they're structured in such a way to help you find what you are good at.
And so as he sat down to pick these books and we had the discussion, to me, and when I parent and when I talk to my children, I always explain to them that discipline is not something that pops up when you need it. It's something that you've honed over time. Yeah. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you doing that? You have a habit of doing this. And if you want to be good at something, I believe the saying is it takes 10,000 hours to be good at any given thing. And that's getting rid of or just wiping the thought of you having a natural proclivity towards being able to do something. So the order of these books invite you into a place where you can analyze not only your habits, someone else's habits, and how your life is affecting you and how to develop that discipline so that you can become a better version of yourself, regardless of how you want to interact with other people. Being a better version of yourself it's a painful thing. You'll lose a lot of friends in the process, maybe, or maybe you'll gain some real friends and then lose the fat. Again, I think that it all starts with discipline and knowing how to identify why you're reacting, what you're putting in, and what you expecting to get out. And if you're believing that you're putting in something but you're not getting the result you want, science says that there's a variable that you're not accounting for, and that's just the reality of it.
That's usually consistency, though.
Yeah,
if you think about it.
it's a wonderful thing. So with that being said, there's going to be several questions over time that we develop throughout this entire process, but there are 3 particular questions that he's identified that he wants to ask with every book, and then as that progresses, there'll be more added to it, and then as the conversation progresses and grows, we'll be able to kind of build and look back through all these things and find that we have several questions that we can just kind of develop. In no way, shape, or form are we saying that we're more extreme. I mean, I'm 42 years old. He's 26.
23.
He's 20. See, he's 23. I'm not a super genius. I've just gotten to where I am today, and I have enough intellect and enough experience to get to him to where he's trying to go. I've built a nonprofit. I'm working through building a business and growing. And mentorship is my contribution to sharing to people. My contribution to saying, hey, I have an experience. It took me this long to get here. Maybe someone else wants the same experience and I can get them there faster. They can go through and learn their processes and figure out what their discipline is. So with that, we're going to go over the questions right quick.
So the first question is, what is your purpose? And I would suggest before you sit down to write what is your purpose, you do the diagram of 3, which I learned from a podcast, is what are you really good at, what do you really like, and what are you getting paid to do? And then you kind of like overlap those 3 and see what you can get paid to do. But as I said before, purpose comes from your sphere of influence, has a lot to do with your passion. So once you've identified your purpose, you know that passion doesn't come right away. Passion comes after repetition and knowing what you know and all these stuff and being able to influence what you know. The second question is, do you believe you are in tune with your purpose? Again, that's a question for you to be able to reflect on.
Very good question too.
Given the fact that 2020 was a very good year, so I'd say a very good year. You could take that as sarcastic as you want, depending on how you are, or you can take it literal. It's up to you. So just ask yourself: do you believe you are in tune with your purpose? The third question is: do you believe your purpose can change in life? A lot of us come to our end of a road where we have worked to get to one level, and then once we've gotten to the top, we think the ceiling is clipped. So that question is aimed at people who have reached the pinnacle of where they wanted to go, and if they're reflecting to see if they want to go somewhere else. So that's the order that we put them in. I put them in that specific order because to be able to know if you've reached the end of a purpose and if you can change your purpose in life is really important.
And so what I think is also important about that is to recognize these 3 questions are broad questions, not directed at the book, but directed at you. So as we progress through this year, recognize these answers might change for you particularly. What your purpose is, what you thought was what you were gearing towards, or how you relate it to something. And now as you've progressed through why you're doing something and what your habits are in the thing that you're doing, and then are you the best that you can be at the thing that you said you wanted to do, has any of that changed? And have you recognized that, hey, maybe there's a point in your life? And I think you highlighted something very important, the sarcasm about the year 2020. I didn't so much have trouble with the year simply because I've been in the military. I've been deployed and isolated for long periods of time with small groups of people. And so to me, it was just kind of like a discipline thing where I just made sure that I continued on a particular path. And I was always double checking myself. But this year has caused a lot of, I think my wife does it. I talk to my kids about it, friends that I have in the States. A lot of self-reflection on, was your purpose to work at Walmart, really? and not that I'm not saying Walmart's a bad job, but was your purpose to work at Walmart? Were you as good at doing the things like, I wasn't cleaning my house because I was busy, but now that you've been locked in the house for a week, you found that you weren't cleaning your house because you didn't want to clean. And it's just those things where you look at yourself, and that's what we're trying to cause is an internal introspection, look at you, and how you're relating to the world around you, and what things do you absolutely need to accompany you on your journey through life.
Also, big thing to remember, right? As a married person, you also, or as a person in a relationship for all that matter, it could be with yourself, with others, your actions do affect you and others around you. So it could be...
Nothing happens in a vacuum.
That is true. And as habit form. It's a habit is not going to be a pristine thing. One of the things that I struggled with was my results didn't meet my imagination, so I had to adjust to see what it looks like in reality to be able to go, which is why the fourth book that I wanted to add but we weren't able to add would have been Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Also check that out. It's a good book to check yourself on, and it's something that will help you grow.
Yeah, and if we can progress through these books faster, or if we get to a point where it's like, hey, we actually read through more chapters and we'll assess that, then, I mean, we can always add another book. So, Semper Gumby, always flexible.